This is Tom Dupuis, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make your WordPress site load faster. A fast website is good for both SEO and conversion rates, and it's really one of the best things you can do to improve its overall performance. So here are some websites that I've optimized already. I do WordPress SEO for a living and website speed on the side. Trust me, it's not enough to make a living. But I just wanted to show you this so you can actually have some faith that what I'm going to show you is going to work. This one we took off about 9 seconds. Here's one we got to 1.44 seconds. Here's 1.81 seconds, 3.91, and 1 second. So what I'm going to show you is going to work, pretty much. I also created a notepad of the steps I'm going to be going over, and the first thing you want to do is back up your website using Updraft Plus. It's a free plugin, and I'm going to show you how to do all this. I will show you how to get your GTmetrix report, which is a website speed report. I'll recommend some fast hosting companies that are also affordable, because that's the #1 thing WordPress recommends in their optimization guide. I'll show you some lightweight WordPress themes. You probably don't want to switch your theme, but your theme does affect your page load time, so I'm just going to show you some options. I'll show you how to configure the W3 Total Cache plugin with MaxCDN. I'll show you how to go through your different plugins and diagnose the largest ones that are slowing down your site. We'll go through image optimization. We'll go through WP Optimize plugin, and that pretty much deletes your spam folder, your trash, and unnecessary files on your site. This is an item in GTmetrix that can be solved within just installing a plugin that I'll show you. You want to avoid using Google Maps in your footer, especially since that shows up on every page on your website, but Google Maps in general you want to avoid because they load slow. You know what, we can just take that off because I just told you. Just avoid Google Maps. You want to disable Trackbacks and Pingbacks. You want to uncheck force rewrite titles in the Yoast. So that's an option in the Yoast SEO plugin that they actually recommend against, and I'll show you an alternative to that. And then I'll just show you some common ways to reduce the size of your pages, like, trying to use less videos and images and so forth. And then finally you want to update WordPress. So let's start from the beginning. Let's back up your website using Updraft Plus. So go ahead and log into your website. And then go to Plugins and install the Updraft Plus plugin. It is free. So once you've done that, you can just go to Settings, Updraft Plus Backups, and then you can back up now. If you go in the Settings menu, there's an option to back up automatically every week or month, whatever, but for now you can just take a one-time backup. So that's the plugin, and you want to do that before you start anything. The next step is to get your GTmetrix report. So just go to GTmetrix.com and run your website through here. My website used to load in 0.39 seconds, but I've added some plugins and a video on here since, so it probably doesn't load in 0.39 now, but it did. I'll even show you. there's a screenshot. So it did load in 0.39, but it's just a preference. I chose to add some more functionality to my site over load times, but it still loads pretty quickly. So 0.7 seconds, that's still pretty good. And you can see I pretty much have green lights across the entire report. So you really want to focus on your page load time and not necessarily your scores. As you improve your scores, you will, or I should say, as you improve your page load time, your scores will improve. So really just focus on the page load time, and you can see recommendations in the page speed tab. And you can click on each item to see more details. There you go, that should be easier to see. And you can also view the Why Slow tab. So I got page speed and why slow. And that's really it. I mean, you can use that as a benchmark throughout this tutorial video, but GTmetrix doesn't have any WordPress specific optimizations. They're not going to tell you to change your host. They're not going to say use a lightweight WordPress theme. They're not going to tell you to delete plugins. So this video tutorial is specific to WordPress. So once you have your GTmetrix report, I just want to go over your hosting and your theme. So those two things alone are huge for website speed. I know people think it's a pain in the butt to migrate hosts and everything, but I like SiteGround, and they'll migrate your hosting for free. So I'll go over a little bit about shared hosting versus cloud and VPS. Basically, shared hosting means you're sharing server space with hundreds of other websites, and that's not good. You want your server to be dedicated to you and your website, so you want less users on your server. And that's why cloud hosting and VPS hosting is really good, but it can be a little bit expensive. So I like I said, I like SiteGround. I've been with them for about a year, and I've literally had no complaints. This is their shared hosting plan. They have the $3.95 a month, $7.95, and $14.95. I actually use the Go Geek package, which is semi-dedicated. So that just means I have less users on the server, and they even say that on their website. So startup is pretty much like any shared hosting package. Grow big, you get some extra features like cache stuff, but I'm going to show you how to do all that anyway. So if you're following this tutorial, those features are pretty much going to become useless. If you're going to upgrade, if this is in your budget, then just do this. But if you're going to upgrade, then you should either do Go Geek, which is semi-dedicated, which means less users on your server, or go with cloud hosting, SiteGround cloud hosting. There it is. So this is $54 a month, but it'll make your website super fast. Unfortunately, I'm too poor to afford it, but I do have the Go Geek package, which is semi-dedicated, and my site runs super fast. So give SiteGround a try. They'll migrate your hosting for free. Their support is really good, and if you look at reviews across the internet, they're pretty much the #1, at least for WordPress hosting. Some people like WP Engine or Bluehost, but I would stay away from GoDaddy's okay, but I would stay away from like HostGator and DreamHost and all of them. Go with someone who has good support, is reliable, and has super fast hosting. And that's SiteGround. Excuse me. So the next step is to use a lightweight WordPress theme. And without getting into anything technical really, there's a WordPress framework, and then there's your theme. So you want to choose a lightweight WordPress theme built on a good framework. There's a lot of frameworks out there like Genesis and everything. Equity framework just came out. There's a bunch of them. But if you want my recommendation, I would go with a Genesis WordPress theme. You can go to StudioPress, and I actually use the Outreach Pro theme from StudioPress, which is a church theme, but I've customized it into a marketing website. So these themes are really nice, and they're SEO friendly, and they load fast. You can filter by mobile responsive. Most of them are HTML5. They also support rich snippets and a lot of like technical stuff about SEO. If you know what rich snippets are, good for you. But these are good. Matt Cutts from Google actually recommends the Genesis framework, and Yoast Davok from the Yoast SEO plugin also recommends Genesis. So this is just one place to get a Genesis WordPress theme. If you can't find one you like here, then I would check out Zigzag Press. They have a lot of really nice themes. I prefer StudioPress because they built the Genesis framework, but StudioPress or Zigzag Press is also really good. They have a ton of really nice themes. I'm definitely not going to make you go through each one of the themes, but they're really nice. The last one I would check out is Web Savvy Marketing. So they have a lot of industry-specific themes, and they're also built in the Genesis framework. So check them out. Between your hosting and your theme, that really is the foundation of your website speed. You can optimize images or, set up the content delivery network. All those help. I mean, they do help a lot, but your hosting and your theme are like the core, like the content is for your SEO. Your hosting and theme are the foundation for your site speed. So the next step is to configure a cache plugin with MaxCDN. I prefer W3 Total Cache, and I wrote a really extensive tutorial on it, but I will walk you through how to configure that with MaxCDN. Okay, this could take a little bit of time, but I promise you it's worth it. So go ahead into your plugins and install W3 Total Cache. I already have it installed, but go ahead and do it for your website. I'll give you a couple seconds because I know I'm going a little bit quick. When you're done, when it's installed, then you're going to see these different performance tabs on the left. And you're basically going to want to go through most of these and configure these for the optimal setting. There is a lot to W3 Total Cache, and that's why I'm going to refer you to my tutorial. If you're using shared hosting or VPS or Cloudflare or MaxCDN, there's certain things you're going to want to leave checked and unchecked. So this tutorial is really extensive. Tons of people have used it, and it walks you through each one of these different performance tabs, at least the ones that you need to set up. So you can see I have the general settings here, and you can just copy these as I'm going along. Page cache should be enabled. You can enable minify, but if you're using Cloudflare, then you should leave it disabled. I prefer just using MaxCDN and W3 Total Cache. It's a great combination, but you can check out Cloudflare too. So you can enable minify if you're using MaxCDN. Just recheck your site because sometimes it can cause some formatting issues. So just check this and then check your site to make sure it didn't mess up, and then come back to the settings. Database cache should be disabled since we're using a CDN. Object cache, that's the number one problem people have with W3 total cache, is this can cause their dashboard or their website to be even slower than it was before. So you can enable it and see what happens, but if you notice your website's loading even slower or your dashboard's slower, then disable object cache. Browser cache you want enabled. CDN you want enabled, and choose MaxCDN. And then everything in the general settings pretty much should be the same. You can use Cloudflare, like I said. This tutorial, or this article walks you through it, but I'm just going to show you how to do MaxCDN. This one, you can check this option, optimize disk enhance page and minify disk caching. Here are the page cache settings, so you can take a look at those and just copy them. You can see a spot to enter your Yoast sitemap here. So copy those. I enable compatibility mode. You can too. Here's my minify settings. I think all these are pretty much the same as what the default comes with. You can leave the database cache as is. You can leave object cache as is. And then here are the settings for browser cache. And then you can leave all the rest of the settings as is. So you've basically configured all the different performance tabs in W3 Total Cache, and now we're going to want to set up the CDN. So a CDN is a content delivery network, and basically what that means is if your server is located in Los Angeles, but your visitor is from New York all the way across the other side of the country, then it's going to take time for that content to travel. So a CDN uses multiple servers around the country and world to deliver your content from the closest server to your visitor. So that could potentially shave seconds off your load time, especially for visitors who are originally far away from that origin server. If that makes sense. It's really good. Okay. So go to MaxCDN and sign up for a plan. It should be $6.95 a month. I have a coupon code that saves you 25% off, and that's an affiliate link. That's how I make my money through these tutorial videos, believe it or not. But it will save you 25% if you click that link. So go ahead and sign up for an account. You can get a free test account just to try it out. I already have an account, so I'm just going to log in. But one thing I want to point out is when you're signing up for MaxCDN, you can probably not select the Asia-Australia plan because that adds to your pricing. So if you disable that, then the price should be a lot cheaper. Last time I checked, MaxCDN includes that as in their default checkout, but I would, especially if you're on a budget, you can not include the Asia-Australia plan. So once you're signed up for MaxCDN, there's basically 3 things we're going to want to do, all of which are really easy. The first thing we're going to want to do is create a pull zone. So just go here and click Zones, create a pull zone, and then you can just label name whatever you want. The origin server URL should be your website. Make sure you include the HTTP and all that. And And then we don't need a label, but you can put it whatever you want. So go ahead and create that. I already created one, so I'm not going to do it, but you want to create it. And then when you do, go to Manage, and go to Settings, and get to this page. So you see the CNAME and everything. And you want to leave this page open because we're going to want this information. The next thing you want to do is right-click Account and open a new tab. So we don't want to close this because we need this. And then go to API Manage. So you want to create an application, and you can just label this whatever you want. Description, blah, blah Q. You don't need an application or callback URL. Permissions, you can view, or you can allow API key full permission to this account. So go ahead and update that. I already created an application too, so I'm going to go ahead and manage. And then you'll come to this screen, and this will have the rest of the information that you'll need to enter into W3 Total Cache. So now go back to W3 Total Cache, go to your Performance tab, General Settings, go to your CDN and enable MaxCDN. Now go back to the Performance tabs and click on CDN. Scroll down and you'll see this section where it says Configuration. You can create a pull zone. We already created one, so we don't need to do that. But this is the main part of it. You want to the authorization key. So this consists of three things: the alias plus the key plus the secret, in that exact format. So you can see this is my alias, this is my key, and then this is my secret. And all those have a plus symbol between them, and that's the format you're going to want to use. So now you can go back to MaxCDN and open up the API tab right here, and find the company alias and copy that, and then paste it, and then put a plus. And now you're going to want to grab your key. So here is the key right here. Don't use mine. I probably wouldn't even care. Probably wouldn't even work. But yeah, grab your key right here, and then paste it in front of the alias. So now you have another plus symbol, and then you're going to want to grab your secret. So the consumer secret is right here, and then you're just going to want to paste it in front of the key. So like I said, it's the alias plus key plus secret, all in that format. And then you can validate it here. And then replace site's host name. You want to go to CNAME, and then just paste that there. Now you can go ahead and test MaxCDN to see if it's working, and when you're done, save all settings. Good. So now you can see I have a CDN is enabled. So we took care of that. That was probably the hardest part of this whole video. Okay, so let's go to the next step, and we'll go through our plugins. So basically, every plugin you install on your WordPress site adds to your load time, some more than others. So the first thing you want to do is go through your plugins menu and delete all the plugins that you don't use. You really want to be a minimalist here. So if you really don't need a plugin, delete it. And don't just deactivate it, make sure you delete it, otherwise it will cause security vulnerabilities. So delete all the plugins you don't use, and then the next thing you want to do is find out if there's any large plugins that are really slowing down your site. And you can do that with the P3 Plugin Performance Profiler. So this plugin basically runs a scan and diagnoses all your largest WordPress plugins so you know which ones are slowing down your site. Once you install it, you can go to Scan Now, and then just do the Start Scan, Auto Scan, and it's going to take a little bit of time to go over everything, but when it's done, it's going to show you a graph of your largest plugins. Okay, so not only should you delete all the plugins that you don't use, but if you're using like a Google Analytics plugin, instead of using a plugin for that, you can just install the tracking code directly in your footer without using a plugin. Or let's say you're using a Facebook plugin to have like a Facebook like box on your blog. You can actually go to Facebook social plugins, create that widget, copy the code, and insert it directly into your widget. And same thing with like Twitter widgets, Google+. There's a lot of things that you really don't need plugins for, like your like Facebook, Twitter, Google+, the Google Analytics tracking code, and those are the main four. But if you can replace a plugin with like static HTML, that's much preferred. So once P3 is done, you will view results. And you can see your largest plugins right here. So WordPress SEO, Other, P3, Gravity Forms. And you just basically want to go through this chart and see if there's any ones that you can delete, or if there's an alternative, faster plugin, then you can test those out. I've noticed a lot of social sharing plugins can slow down your site, so you may want to look into a new social sharing plugin, especially if items in your GTmetrix report constantly say, they mention your social sharing plugin in the items. And that's really it. Just be a minimalist on your plugins, try to combine them, and replace them with code when you can. So that's it. Now to optimize your images. In GTmetrix, there's 3 items that they're referring to. So there's serve scaled images, there's optimize images, and then there's specify image dimensions. So images actually take 3 items in GTmetrix, and they're all high priority. I'm going to go over each one of these because they're a little different. So serve scaled images basically just means if you have a featured image that calls for 300 by 300 pixels, but you're using 600 by 600, that image is going to take twice as fast to load. Or if you're using the drag to resize feature in the visual editor. So like say I'm in the visual editor inserting an image, you can actually drag the corner and resize it. You actually don't want to do that because that will resize the displayed image, but it won't resize the actual image. So if you're going to resize an image, do it in your media library using the scale feature. So I'll show you what I mean. Most of you should know how to do this, but if you don't, you want to resize images like this. Just edit the image and then resize it here. But you don't want to do that drag to resize feature. So serve scaled images, just make sure you know the dimensions of your featured images so you can use the correct dimensions, and do not use the drag to resize feature. You can click on this to see which images need to be fixed, but GTmetrix is only going to tell you images for that page. So really you would need to run your site, each page of your website, through GTmetrix to see these serve scaled images and which ones need to be fixed. But the best way to go about it is just go through your different featured images and make sure those are scaled properly to be the dimensions that it calls for. There's two other ways to optimize your images in GTmetrix. The next one is just simply optimize images, and you can do this with a plugin. I like to use the Image Optimizer plugin. So if you install that, you can go to Media, Bulk Optimize, and then just start optimizing and let the plugin run, and it should optimize a ton of your images losslessly, which basically means the quality won't be affected. So a lot of people have plugins like Next Gen Gallery or sliders, whatever. You can also do the scan and optimize button to scan those that are outside of your media library. So I would do both of those. Another plugin that does this is WP Smush It. So you can do either one of those, but I found a lot of those two plugins don't always optimize your images if you retest it in GTmetrix. So if that's the case, I would definitely bulk optimize your images this way, but if you retest it in GTmetrix and you still have a ton of unoptimized images, then I would install this plugin called Compress JPEG and PNG Images. So when you install that, you can actually get an API key, and this plugin will automatically optimize images once you upload them, so you don't have to run the bulk optimize button every single month or whatever. So that should take care of optimize images. And then specify image dimensions just means each image on your site has a specified width and height. So the visual editor takes care of this automatically. If you enter an image in the visual editor, WordPress will automatically specify its width and height. But if you're entering an image in a widget, or in your editor section right here, then this needs to be done manually. So you can actually insert the image in the visual editor, then copy the code. I'll show you how to do that. So if we're in the visual editor, and then maybe we want to use an image in a widget, we can actually, that's going to be way too large, but let's say it's a little smaller. You can actually paste the image in the visual editor, then click the text option, and then just copy the code, and then paste it into wherever you want in your widgets. But if you already have images in your widgets, you just want to make sure that each one has a specified width and height. So just go into the HTML and make sure each image has a specified width and height. And same thing, it's the same thing with serve scaled images. GTmetrix is only going to show you images for that page. So you know, I would definitely do like site-wide images that are in your footer or sidebar, your logo, and start with those because those are on multiple pages. But then you can go to individual pages and run your website through GTmetrix to find those images. So that's it as far as image optimization goes. Let's see, what do we got next? So the run WP optimize. So this will basically delete trash folder, spam folder, post revisions, and unnecessary files. So go to plugins, add new, and search WP optimize. Go ahead and install it. And then I think it's the optimizer link. Yeah, so click the optimizer link, and then look at each one of these items. These are red for a reason. I would not select those, but you know, unapproved comments, I probably want to deselect that because those are legitimate comments. But your spam folder, your post revisions, so WordPress, each time you save a draft or publish a draft, or you just edit a page or post, WordPress stores all those versions of that page or post. So this will delete all those versions from your site. So this can be thousands and thousands, so it can speed up your website, but just make sure you know what post revisions are and that you don't use these because these will permanently delete those. But once you're okay with the settings, you can go ahead and process. And when it's done, you can also check out the settings, which has an option to run periodically. Auto clean every week. The next step is remove query strings from static resources. If you look into your GTmetrix report and you see this, then you can simply install a plugin to take care of this. You can literally just copy this because that's the name of the plugin, remove query strings from static resources, and go ahead and add new, and install it. And once you install it, it'll take care of it automatically. So now we can move on to the next item, which is disable trackbacks and pingbacks. So these are basically used to notify blogs when you link to them, or when they link to you, you will be notified. But it does cause more memory on your WordPress site to do this. So these are the types of small changes that can make a little bit of a difference. If you want to disable these, then just go to Settings, Discussion, and then make sure this is disabled right here. You can see pingbacks and trackbacks right here. Make sure this is disabled. So after that, if you're using the Yoast SEO plugin, there's an option for force rewrite titles. So what that basically does is, if you go to your home page and you hover over your browser tab, and you see you have duplicate site name, a duplicate site name, then you want to force rewrite your titles, and that will basically, it might be like say Online Media Masters 2 times, but I don't want that 2 times in my SEO title. I just want it once. So the force rewrite titles will fix this, but it's actually recommended that you don't select the force rewrite titles. Yoast actually recommends against this, and they say it can considerably slow down your site. So the best option is to first of all go into your Yoast settings under SEO, titles and metas, and make sure this is not selected. And then you just want to copy this code and go into your header.php file and paste this code between the title. So you'll see 2 title elements in your header.php, and you just want to select everything between the titles and replace it with this code. So next is reduce the size of individual pages. This just means, if you're using a ton of sidebar widgets, or if you're using a ton of videos or images on a page, those can take a really long time to load. So you may want to consider reducing those and not using so many. But if you do use a ton of images or videos, then make sure all the images are optimized using the strategies I just went over, and just try to be limited on them. So the last and final step is to update WordPress, and this is obviously really easy. Under Dashboard, you go to Updates, and you want to make sure your WordPress core, theme, and plugins are all up to date. And you really want to do this anyway. This affects how your website runs, your security, your load times, ton of stuff. So you always want to make sure your software is up to date. So now that we've updated our plugins, there's one more thing I want to point out. Notice how we ran the P3 plugin to diagnose our largest plugins, but now that we're done using that, we can go ahead and delete it. So I would go ahead and delete P3, but if you're using like the U-Image Optimizer or compressed JPEG and PNG images, and they have an option to optimize images once they're uploaded, then you probably want that installed. But plugins that you only use once, like P3, or even periodically, you may want to delete and only reinstall them when you need to. Remember, the less plugins, the better. So that's really it. I hope you found this video helpful. If this helped and you had success, I would love to hear about it in the comments. Or if you're stuck and need help, I would also love to hear it. Either way, drop me a line and give me some feedback. Otherwise, please like, share, subscribe, or do whatever you want. My name's Tom, and I hope you found this video helpful.